let's jump into it. All right, so this is episode 5 of Welcome to Real Estate Podcast with Attorney Kishore Kapoor, and for all my Connecticut people out there that call him Kishore, it's Kishore.
No, other way around.
What?
You mess it up. It's Kishore, not Kishore. You always mix it up. It's all right though.
I have on text from you saying it's Kishore. And I went and corrected Ariel on it. I screenshotted your text.
That's okay.
And I sent it to her because I was like, yes, I'm right. Damn it. Now she's right. Oh, well.
It's always good when Ariel's right, though.
I'd rather be right.
Yeah.
All right, so it's Kishore, not Kishore.
Yes.
All right.
We'll swap it around. It's okay.
All right, it's all good. So what's going on, man?
Not much. How's it going with you?
Real estate. It's an interesting market.
It is.
You see it firsthand being on hundreds of files a month, I'm sure.
Yep. And I think we're at that point, and I've told the people this a lot. We're at that point in like 2020, like I wouldn't say March where people didn't know what was going on. I say more like April, maybe May, where we're just before the market went crazy. I think that's where we're at. And we see it, I see it two ways, right? I see it from other attorneys, like the ones that aren't getting enough business, that are bitter. Yep. The ones that wish they had more business and aren't doing anything to grow their business. And then the last ones are, and I'm going to say shameless plug, like my firm, where we've grown so much and we're so busy now that, it's not that we can't handle more. We can handle more, but we're noticing that the attorneys that are busy like us are a little bit shorter than usual.
Yeah. Did I hit record on that camera?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Listen, this running a podcast is
it's a lot more work than
it's a lot of work. Yeah. So let's talk about your career, because I think that's the more important piece here. The market is the market. It's crazy, right?
And, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on who you're talking to.
Fortunately for you.
Fortunately for me.
Fortunately for me. Right. We're both very busy firms.
Unfortunately for the home buyer,
right.
It's competitive.
It is.
And, it's competitive.
It is. It's nuts. It's nuts. So let's get into your career as an attorney.
Sure.
So how long have you been an attorney?
So it's 2025, 12 years.
12 years. Wow.
Yeah.
And you've been a real estate attorney the entire time.
So I started out my first year. I worked at the probate court in Trumbull for about a year.
Oh,
wow. Hated having a boss. My boss and I didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things, so it became a struggle. But then we turned around. I went around and asking all the attorneys I knew for a job, and everyone's like, no. I shouldn't say that. The attorney I wanted to work with said no. He goes, but I'll mentor you. And I'm like, but I'll interview you around. And what happened is during the interview, he's like, you got to plan to be here from 8 o'clock in the morning and midnight, but I leave at 6 o'clock.
To do real estate?
This was estate planning.
Oh, but okay. That's
right. But I'm like,
what?
So I'm building somebody else's name up instead of my own.
To work 8 a.m. to midnight?
Yeah, didn't make sense.
Okay.
So the guy I wanted to work for is like, no, I won't hire you, but I'll mentor you. And it's just, that rest is history. Right.
Wow.
The little caveat I'll put on that is the day I quit my job, I found out my wife was pregnant.
Oh, so it always happens like that.
Yeah. So we just pivoted, and my wife was like, supported my decision, took a spare bedroom in our house, and started our firm.
Wow.
So I started in September of 2014. My daughter was born in March, so I took 6 months to start the firm, quote unquote.
Right.
And then took 6 months off.
And you jumped into real estate from the beginning on your own.
Yeah. So my best friend goes, "You're my attorney. I'm buying a house." I'm like,
okay.
Shit, what do I do?
Yeah.
Right. Like I gotta get my stuff in order. So I started calling around, figure out what I need to do, and it worked out.
Wow. And so, all right. So it's funny because we met through Remax.
Correct.
When I was at Remax, which was 6 years ago. Yeah, about 6 years ago. And you were coming in what I always admired about what you did was you went out and built relationships. And as you know, one of the things I always push to my agents is it's a relationship business.
Yeah.
Right. And you've basically are like the king of it. You know who else is the king of it? And I shouted them out in the last podcast, AFC. Those kids, relationship builders.
Yes.
Right. And when you're out there building those relationships, whether you're an attorney, mortgage, real estate, You want to be, when people think, oh, real estate, they want to think Kishore. They want to think Cody, they want to think this person, right? And you did it.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
you were shaking hands,
kissing babies.
Yeah, you were doing educational classes for our Remax office. I'm sure you were doing that for other offices. And you know, it's funny because we never did a lot of business together.
No, we didn't.
Because I was already in the business, doing a lot of business. I had attorneys that, you know, I was working with. But we did a deal together. And I would like to shout out that deal because I think that deal was incredible. I had a client, and now the attorney on that deal wasn't one of my like go-to attorneys. It was a corporate attorney from the lender.
Yes.
Who the lender was just like, yeah, we use this guy all the time. Well, we get to a week before closing. It was close. It was very close.
Yeah,
and
I think it was a week or two before closing.
Yeah. Seller was like, I'm not selling anymore. And we all know, and this is great for this podcast, once you're in contract, unless you have a statement or a contingency in there that gets you out of that contract, it's hard. And you can't pull out.
Right. Especially as a seller. Right?
Especially as a seller.
I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like a seller's got, in most of the contracts, less rights.
100%.
Right. I think we do have a contract in Connecticut where it's semi protecting the seller, right? It allows the seller 7 days after the mortgage contingency to back out.
Oh, I didn't know. Is that the GAR one?
The GAR one.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't
so
know
it gives
that.
you 7 days after mortgage contingency. It might be 5 days. I'm doing this from memory.
Whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
One of those 2 days to back out of the contract.
So
if the buyer doesn't have an mortgage.
Well, see, I know I didn't use the GAR because I always use standard form.
Correct.
Right. So on the standard form, it gives you a 5-day attorney review at the beginning.
Yep.
And then as a seller, you're kind of shit out of luck. Like,
at that point, as a seller, you have no contingency.
No contingency. So we were like a week away from closing, and the attorney was like, the seller was like, we want out or whatever. And that attorney was like, well, you know, you're not going to get anywhere. Just back out. Let it be. And our buyer was a successful doctor, no bills, like just a very well-off guy.
Right.
He's like, no, I'll fight this.
Yeah.
And I said, well, we need to get the right attorney to fight it. And I was like, I got this guy. His name is Kishore. It's going to kill me, dude. I got to reprogram my mind.
That's all right.
I'm pretty sure that's a glitch in the Matrix because you told me Kishore. Anyways, so I said, we need to go with Kishore. And for this podcast, you're Kishore, right?
That's fine.
All right. So I said, we're going to go.
I respond to both anyways.
So I get you guys linked up, and you went to town.
Yeah.
And look, we all know in Connecticut, maybe in any state, it's very hard to litigate over a purchase and sale contract.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
It's really not worth it. Not for an attorney because you're not going to make any money on it.
No, the only person that actually makes money on it is the attorney, right?
But it's not like...
Because we're going to make it... They charge an hourly rate.
Yeah, but you're not going to get rich off of it.
No.
And it's too much time. That's one of my points. Like,
right.
There's nobody's gets any benefit out of that.
Not at all.
Whatsoever. And it holds the property up for years.
Well, and the other part of it is, right, so as an attorney, and I can't say all attorneys are like this. I could say for myself, my client's opinion of me really matters.
Right.
Right. I don't want somebody out there bashing me saying I'm out for money. And that's how I feel like with you're going to sue over a contract unless it's really your dream house and you can deal with not having it for 5 years. Then it's a different story.
And I think that client knew like he could have financially bought few houses, right?
Right.
And so I don't think he cared if he got that house or not. It was more the principle, like, hey, like I wasted my time. The market was kind of crazy. It was right before COVID, I think. Yeah, it was before COVID.
Yeah.
So the market was still very hot. Things were still going over asking, and he was like, let's just fight it. And you knew the attorney on the list side.
Right.
And you were just like, listen, this ain't right.
Yeah. So the advantage, and to add to your story, and you may or may not know this, the whole reason they didn't want to sell was a couple.
I do know that. I knew the seller personally.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the seller decided, and this is just adds to the story. The seller was a couple, boyfriend and girlfriend, and there's another lesson here too, which is I pointed out. Boyfriend and girlfriend, and they split up and then reconciled.
Yep.
During the closing process.
Yep.
Ironically, and I think you know this, they split up again and sold the property a few years later.
Yep.
But the point there is just to understand when you buy a property with a significant other that is not your legal spouse, it's a shit show.
Awful.
But these guys, you know, I convinced the attorney very easily, right? And I'll say, you know, I'm not gonna
Put it out there. It's a podcast.
I'm not gonna say it like I did something amazing.
Right.
I know in the end of the day, if you look at it, it's amazing. But I had the attorney buy in very quickly, right? Because the attorney knew his client screwed up, and as soon as I put some pressure on it, just the slightest bit of pressure, he's like, "Yep, your client's right."
Yeah, yeah, and you know what? That doesn't happen a lot. And I don't know. I don't remember the exact numbers, but they ended up paying him out some money.
I think it was like $30,000.
It was high. I remember it was a high number. They paid him out. They had a refi to do that payout.
They had a refi to do it. They paid him, I want to say, so pridefully, we got both real estate agents paid.
Half. We got half each, but we got paid.
Right.
Yeah.
You guys got half each, but
hey, it's money.
it's money.
It's money.
Right? We got the ability for the mortgage broker to get a credit, but she couldn't get anything. Right? Like their rules are strict. I don't know, whatever. She said she couldn't get anything. We got him reimbursed for his application fee, his title search fee, my fees, and we got him, I want to say like a week or two of his salary.
Yeah.
Right? So you think about it, a doctor's salary. So we figured out, I think we said $1,000 a day.
That sounds about right.
So I got him a check for like $15,000. He was ecstatic.
Oh, we love, and then we went and sold him another property in that process,
Right.
Which he closed on. So I made out like a bandit.
And then ironically, he turned out to be my mom's doctors a few years later.
It's funny,
Right? My mom and my dad.
Then he bought 2 properties without us.
Yes. Well, we're not talking about that. And probably sold them now because he's moved out of the U.S.
Right.
I'm sure he's going to hear this, but
I don't care.
it's
We
fine.
still love you.
Yeah.
Wherever you are.
Yeah. We hope all is well. But it's funny because, you know, I say that. So my mom has had a few major medical issues over the years. One time, stupidly, she took her Ambien instead of her Zyrtec.
Oh, Jesus.
Or whatever allergy medicine she thought she took. So she crashed her car. And another one of our clients that I had just closed, a doctor at the hospital had saw her. So,
Oh, wow.
And then the next time she went to the hospital, one of the nurses I closed with had her. And it's funny because they all bragged to her how great her son is, right? And it's just, you know, it's the experience I think my mom got at the hospital was very different because of that.
Yeah.
Again, we talk about the relationship business. If I hadn't had a good relationship with that client, it wouldn't have worked.
Probably not. You know, it's a good story. I tell everybody that story because it you know, and the funny thing is I feel like life comes full circle because now here we are years later. We hadn't done a deal together, right? Since then.
Right.
A lot of because I got sick, I moved to Florida. I kind of stopped producing a lot. Building the brokerage, whatever, distractions.
Right.
I don't, you know, as far as producing goes, but, you know, Ariel, who we brought in as a managing partner, who does a lot of business with you, you know, was like, hey, like Kishore is doing all this for me. Like, you know, I'd like to kind of like plug him into the brokerage.
Right.
And you were all for it. Like, yeah, like we plugged you in and you're like involved in our communication app. You offer our agents free legal advice. Like it's, you know, it's obviously well appreciated, but it's also having you in there has elevated our recruiting.
Right.
Cause I'm like, look I got an attorney in here. And the reality is you're going in there, you get like a question one a month, right?
Maybe not even that.
Not even that, right?
Right. I think since I've been in the app, and I think it's been 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
I think I had 2 questions.
And a lot of times, a lot of the questions I answered because you didn't need to.
Right.
You know, like, but the comfort of them knowing, wow, they have an attorney on staff, you know,
And we all know how hard it's to get a hold of an attorney.
Right.
Right. So you have them on staff, 1. And 2 is it's also reassuring when your broker says, hey, you should do X, Y, and Z. And the attorney goes, thanks for doing my job. Right. And confirms it. It makes it so that you now are more, not that you're not credible to your agents, but it builds you up even more because it shows that you're knowledgeable.
Right. I was talking about this morning because I recruited a new agent today from EXP. I said, a lot of times I have attorneys who call me for real estate advice because they're like, Cody knows what he's talking about.
Right.
And as brokers and realtors, we're out in the field practicing certain aspects that attorneys are not.
Right.
So you may call me and be like, hey, what are you doing in this situation? I just want to pick your brain on it. And I get that a lot.
Right.
And so for me, like, I'm confident knowing I can answer a lot of those questions. But at the same time, I'm like, hey, this is what I would do. But Kishore might have a different approach,
And it's sometimes you say, hey, I'm not a lawyer.
That
right?
too.
You give that caveat,
Yeah.
but this is how I've handled it in the past.
Right.
And let me chime in. And a lot of times when you and I give the same answer, which again, it makes the agent feel better because they know you know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
But they also have that double check by me.
And this is my biggest argument with real estate. All these major companies have managers that have broker's license that don't actually practice.
Yeah.
Right? The bigger brands. And do I want to become a bigger brand? Yeah, but at least I'm building it on the backbone of knowing what I'm talking about. Right?
But you're building it on you were an agent first.
Yep.
Right.
A top producing agent.
Right.
Not even just a regular
Right.
agent. I was top producer.
And it's not even that you were an agent doing listen, you can go get your broker. I can go get my broker's license, right?
Yep.
I need to sit through a few classes, but I can go get my broker's license. Doesn't mean that I'm equipped
Exactly.
to know what you guys go through,
It's a lot.
right?
It's a lot.
Yeah, but that also being said, I don't think enough people realize becoming a broker is a lot more work than they think.
I talked about this. I went to a NAREP event that I sponsored last week. And in my speech, I mentioned that. And that speech was off the top of my head. But in that speech, I was talking about how I could teach you to be a successful realtor, but no one will ever teach you to be a successful broker because there's so much more that goes into it,
And realistically, it's not like brokers get together and be like, hey, this is the struggles. I wish they would, because it would solve a lot of our headaches, right?
Yeah.
But you're not going to sit down with a big box store broker
No.
and talk about things. It's going to be little brokers,
I agree.
right? Mom and pops.
Mom and pops.
But the problem is mom and pops aren't doing what you're doing, right?
No.
They're
still producing.
They're producing, and they're not recruiting as hard as you do.
Right.
Right. And not saying that you're going and you're not being like cold calling random agents and promising
And
them
I
the
don't.
world. Right.
No.
But I don't think the mom and pops are doing that.
No.
They're staying at 4, 5, 6 agents.
They're not investing either.
No.
Like, they're not investing in technology. They're not investing back in the agents. They're like, hey, I'm opening a brokerage. You can put your license with me. I'll give you this split, but that's it.
Right.
You're not getting training. You're not getting tech. You're not getting support. And, we've really built, I think we've built probably the greatest real estate company in America. I don't even care. I could throw my ego on that. We really have.
And the other part of it is you have partners
Yep.
that will come in, like you and I. We've done events in my office, right? Every time I do I do a monthly lunch and learn that I've invited your entire team to,
Yeah.
or your entire office, whatever, however you want to call it.
Yeah.
And that's an advantage that you now have because you have people that are on your side that'll do that, right?
Yep.
We've got Nick from Total Mortgage,
Yep.
right? Nick has done events with us, right? And there's this synergy between the three, Ariel, Nick, and I, because we've done so much together that we know how each operates, right? Going back to the relationship business,
Yeah. Yep.
right? Everything you'll notice we talk about goes back to the relationship business.
It's always relationships.
My wife gives me a hard time because every time we see Shark Tank, it's like Mark Cuban's like, I'm a self-made man. Well, I'm like, that's bullshit, right? You have people behind you, and anybody that says they're self-made is just full of shit.
I'm
right?
self-made.
Yeah, but you're but you're not, right? You're self-funded.
Self-funded for sure.
But you're not self-made because you have people around you all the time that get you where you need to go.
I agree with that.
Right?
I agree with that. I think the difference is resources.
Correct.
Right?
That's what I think people mean when they're self-made.
Yeah.
But I take it a different way, right? Everything I do, there's people behind me, right? I'm the face of my firm. There's 5 people in my office that are working behind me behind the scenes. That's That's why I can't be self-made, right?
Right.
But that's relationships.
Yeah. I mean, look, I say it all the time, because, I started out in the business 8-ish years ago with Ravis, and I went to Remax. I wasn't at Ravis long, but, it's like the guys at Remax, right? Like, they were just a lot better to get along with than the people at Ravis, in my opinion. They were, even though they owned that Remax, they didn't fit the bill of what you think would own a Remax, right? Carhartt hoodies, shorts, that was like my vibe. I'm like, yeah, this is me, dude. Not the shirt and tie,
Right.
And it's so weird to think about, and to think, those, especially Dave, very, very successful guys that you would never even think, because these are basically multi-millionaires.
Right.
And you would never know.
Right.
Because you could walk down the street and they're wearing...
It's like Mark Cuban.
Yeah.
Right? I think... I always love that too. I can't think of his name.
Even Elon Musk. Always in a T-shirt.
Yeah. So, and I don't remember the guy on Shark Tank. Robert, I think is his name.
Robert Hirsch.
Yeah, I can't pronounce his last name. I saw an interview years ago with him.
Yeah.
And he's like, I was at an event, everybody's in suits and ties, and there's this asshole in the corner in a jeans and a T-shirt. Mm-hmm. He goes, I was more interested in him and more intimidated by him than by the guys in the suits, which is fascinating because if you look back, right, I think The Godfather, it's like, what's worse, 100 men with guns or an attorney with a pen and a piece of paper, right? So it's fascinating that kind of flipped, but...
See, I'm the T-shirt and jeans guy.
Yeah.
In every room. And I got picked on for a long time because everyone's like, oh, you're not wearing a suit and tie. I got flown out to Remax in the headquarters in Denver. And because they're trying to get me to buy a Remax. And everybody in the room that was a prospective buyer for Remax, to open a franchise, were all in suit and ties. And I looked like a bum, okay? And they treated me different. I know they did.
Yeah.
I know they did. And
the other people that were potentially buying or Remax?
No, the people, I made a lot of friends out of those people, and none of them bought into Remax. I felt like Remax treated me a little different.
Yeah.
And I can't prove that, and I'm not putting on a record that they did or didn't, but
and you're not saying to badmouth. You're just saying your view is you got treated differently, right?
Yeah, but the reality is, and I've networked with a lot of the people that are in that room. I'm probably the most successful one.
Right.
And I have the largest company out of all of them. And a lot of them didn't even go on their own. They're still at their Keller Williams or this one or that one. I went on my own, and I got 60-something agents now. And, jokes on that. I mean, they would have sold me Remax anyways. They did. They wanted to. It's just the reality is they didn't put too much attention on me when they had the guy sitting in the room that probably was going to be the most successful one.
Right.
So it goes back to what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, it's very true, right? I mean, I've changed my appearance. Mm-hmm. I mean, I actually did it more so for myself than anyone else, but I felt better myself dressing up.
You're an attorney.
Right?
It's an image, right?
But it's when I dress down, I could tell you definitely, right? When I bought my office building, I showed up on Columbus Day. The listing agent didn't really consider me or treat me. Not that he mistreated me, but you could tell there was a different treatment, right?
Yep.
Should have been jeans and a T-shirt. The next time I saw him, I was in a suit, and the attitude changed immediately.
Isn't that crazy?
Right? Like, it was almost like the first time I showed up, it was, I don't have the money to be here.
What car were you driving?
I drove a Subaru. I'm not.
Yeah? You're not a flashy car guy?
Not yet. It's just, I got to build up some other stuff first, right?
Right.
To me, the car's the last thing. It's the family house was the first big thing.
We'll go buy Porsches together. Right?
Yeah.
All
yeah.
Right,
next year.
Yeah.
Next year.
It's on the list.
Yeah. It's on the list, right? I've already got the one picked out.
Yeah, me too. Which one?
It's the 913, I think it is.
930. I don't know what that is. Listen,
911. It's one of the Boxsters.
Oh, okay.
Right.
You want a Boxster?
Yeah.
Oh,
911, 913, 917. It's 9 something.
Like that.
I mean, I've got it saved on my computer. But
mine's a 911 GT3.
Yeah.
That's my car.
So I actually ironically have that in Lego in my office.
I want the Miami blue.
I share this week. I'm a huge Lego fan, so I've got the Miami blue.
That's awesome.
Bugatti.
Really?
Of course, it's Lego, not real life.
You ever go down to Miami and see all those cars?
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Every corner. Crazy.
Yep. It's crazy, and it's it's always shocking to me. So like, I went to a private lending conference in South Beach last month. I'm like, in the hotel, there's like Bentleys and Ferraris. And I'm like, who the hell is driving to South Beach to a hotel and staying in a hotel? They probably live in the area. Why the hell are you staying at this hotel with?
Maybe, or it's somebody renting it trying to fit in.
I think that's the other part.
Right.
Of it.
But Miami became the tech capital of America, if not the world, during COVID.
Right.
'Cause everybody moved from New York and LA to Miami. They're all regretting it. They're all losing millions of dollars on those penthouses they bought.
Oh yeah, and
right?
I mean that's a whole nother.
That's a whole nother story.
That's a whole nother. So that market's just it's interesting. So.
Trash, dude. Trash.
Well, because it's kind of like what happened here in Connecticut, right? If you think about it, 2020, all the New Yorkers came in, getting out of the city. Now they're slowly starting to sell off, but they're not enough that it changes in the market. But we're an old state, so we don't have, and it's building's not occurring quick enough.
No, and it can't.
It's expensive.
There's no land, but there's no land either.
There's pockets.
Pockets, that's it.
Right. But the problem is that a lot of our towns have minimum lots that are 2 acres, acre and a half, an acre. I mean,
you know, I prefer those towns to not let them build because I like driving through and seeing the greenery, you know?
Yeah.
But like, look what they do with Shelton, dude. They're overbuilding in Shelton.
Right.
You know?
Well, and I live up in Cheshire, and you know, a lot of the times they're buying out old farms because there's a lot of farmland in Cheshire.
They're starting to sell them.
And they're starting to sell them because it's a lot of work. Luckily, the farm by my house, the new owners that bought it are keeping it a farm, and I'm excited for it. But you think about it, they're converting a lot of the old farms and places into housing.
Right.
And we have a serious problem here in Connecticut.
We do. It's
Right.
definitely a shortage of
Forget the
housing.
land issue. It's one issue. It's too expensive.
But also, not only is there a housing shortage on the sales side, there's a housing shortage on the rental side too.
Yeah.
It's scary, actually. And rental prices have tripled in like 4 years, if not quadrupled.
And salaries haven't.
Salaries have it.
Right.
When I was at Remax 6 years ago, I did a lot of rentals. I had this rental. I have this landlord that I work with for years on Orange Street. Now, Orange Street's Yale-driven, very colleges, doctors, whatever. So all these rentals came in with doctors who had ridiculous salaries. So it didn't matter. But I still do his rentals exclusively to this day. 6 years ago, I rented those units for their 2-bedroom units. I rented them for $1,700. We're now getting $3,500.
And
and these aren't even like
nice apartments.
They're okay.
Right.
They're okay.
Right. I don't even want to know what it would be if it was a luxury apartment. Right. Like that's.
Well, like those little ones they did on House Street, where they're studios for $2,700. I mean, and they're smaller than this room, this podcast studio.
Well, it's turning into like Manhattan numbers, right? I had a college roommate that when we graduated, they were like talking about how they moved into Manhattan. And I'm like, this is garbage, right? They're paying like 10 grand, maybe not that much, but
it was probably that much.
It was, I think it was like $1,700 or $1,800, and it was for a room this size, right? And they had like a 2 guys in there in a studio apartment because they were living in Manhattan. You know, it's
crazy. It's nuts.
Something's got to change. And the sad part to me, I don't see anything changing for a while.
You know what I think needs to change? I think the government needs to give more incentives for people to migrate. Is that the right word?
Yep.
Migrate to the Midwest.
Yeah.
Tennessee, Alabama, Kansas.
I don't know if Tennessee would count Midwest or.
Well, I mean, it counts. Yeah. In my head, it counts.
Yeah.
It's
outside of the East Coast.
It's Midwest enough. Like even like Colorado's getting expensive, but even like
North Dakota, South Dakota,
Utah, even Arizona still affordable.
Yeah.
You know, Texas is getting crazy. But like if the government gave more incentives for people to what they should do, because you can't just incentivize people to move. You got to incentivize the employers.
Right.
And if you incentivize the employers to incentivize the people, you'll get them to move and build economies in areas that don't have economies yet, where you can get a 6-bedroom house for $350,000, right? I'm licensed in Tennessee. And I follow Tennessee's market closely because I do plan on buying a property in Nashville. Nashville market, 7 years ago, okay, you could buy a house for $200,000, beautiful. Now going for $1.5 million.
Nashville's
right?
blown up.
Blown up. It's the hottest market in America.
Right. So we went to Nashville in 2021.
Yeah, at the peak of the boom.
The peak of the boom.
Yep.
But at that point, they had
Tore
on the news.
Yeah.
Well, on the news, they said they had a housing crisis, right? And then we were looking at the numbers, and my wife turns to me and she goes, I want to buy a house here. I'm like, go look it up, right? Whenever we go on vacation, my wife's first answer is, let's buy a house here.
To be fair, though, you can buy outside of Nashville, like 20 minutes outside, for a third of the price.
Yeah.
Murfreesboro, Franklin's a little expensive, but you still get something nice in Franklin for probably $600,000-700,000. It's much better than here.
Yeah.
You're gonna get an 8-bedroom house for $1 million there. You can't get to here.
But you can't convince me to leave, right? Here's
the thing, right? You have kids.
Yeah.
You have a successful firm. The only way for you to leave is for you to basically put someone in charge of your firm. And you have a similar personality to me. You're going to have a hard time releasing that.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the other part of it is like, forget the firm part for a second, right? Connecticut, to me, it's like I've lived in other states, right? I lived in Rhode Island for law school, lived in Massachusetts for a little bit. There's nothing like Connecticut. Like, people hate on Connecticut
Total
a lot.
package, yeah, I agree.
I mean, you talk to people that hate on Connecticut left and right. I'm like, listen, we've got beaches. We have some nice beaches.
We have the best food.
Yes.
100 hands down. I've been to 38 states.
New Yorkers will tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
But we've got the best pizza.
Best pizza.
Yeah, all around.
Best Chinese.
Right, all around.
Best everything.
So here's the thing, right? So Connecticut, you can be in an hour, you could be in the mountains to the ocean.
Yep.
I mean, Long Island sounds okay. So it's not the ocean. But
Yeah.
you want to go skiing, you can go skiing. It's an hour to 2 to New York City, an hour or 2 to Boston. What are you missing? Right? Okay, fine. People were like, oh, we don't have a sports team.
Okay.
You know what? It's an hour, a train ride to Yankee Stadium.
Right, exactly.
Right? A train ride to Madison Square Garden. A train ride, I don't actually know where the Celtics are, but like somewhere in the Boston area, right?
I will say the only thing that bothers me about Connecticut, and you can't mistake taxes. The taxes aren't even that high. It's the taxes on everything. Taxes on the cars, taxes on this, property taxes. Property taxes aren't actually that high compared to other states. I lived in Florida. I lived in Florida, owned a house in Florida. My property tax on my house in Boynton Beach, which is not the greatest town to live in, okay? It's okay. It's all right. I had a 2-bedroom house, 1 bath, okay? My property tax there was $5,200 a year. My property tax on my house up here that's 4 bedrooms, 3 baths is $5,500. Yep. So you can't even give me the argument that Connecticut has high taxes. It's just we are taxed on everything else.
Right. You know? But if you think about it, right, like, and I can say this, I went to college at Quinnipiac, right? I got to meet kids from other parts of the country. The thing that people don't realize is there's a reason our taxes are high. We have phenomenal school systems.
Oh yeah, I'm a genius.
Right? Yeah, but if you go to another state, and I'm not knocking on you in any way, you are significantly smarter than other people in the
100%,
right?
I know that.
Right?
Yeah.
And depending where you are too, like my family and I live in Cheshire. I have a private school system and a public school system. Right? So it depends where you are.
Right.
But I would still say, I had kids that I know were not in the best school systems.
Right.
That I went to college with that were still smarter than the kids that were in New York City. That went public schools.
I agree. No,
right?
I agree 100%.
So I get where our tax dollars are, right? The other part that nobody considers, I don't know of anywhere else really where you have 4 real seasons. Right?
I agree. But also, too, we have a lot of state parks.
Yeah.
I mean, beautiful, like waterfalls and hiking and all these different things. I want to kind of...
And we don't pay for it, right? You go to other states, you go to a state park, you have to pay for parking. You have to pay for admission. So, like I said, people knock on it. Yes, we probably pay more in taxes in total after we pay car tax, house tax, all the other...
It's a good thing I'm a Florida resident.
Right. Yeah. Sales tax, all those things it works out well. But at the end of the day, we got a lot for our money.
I agree with that. I grew up here. I was born in New Haven, raised. It's definitely got its lot of pros.
Yeah.
A lot of pros. I think the cons are more of the social aspect of taxes, but again, that's more politics and political agenda.
Yep.
If you ignore that stuff, which like I know I do, I just don't care. Like, you know what? At the end of the day, we got to pay taxes.
Yeah.
If it's going to something I don't agree with, I can't control it. What are you going to, oh, yes, you can. No, I can't.
Right.
Okay. There's 3.5 million people in Connecticut. It takes 3.5 million of us to all get in a room and go, hey, we don't like this.
Right.
Not me. Not a small percentage. And if I don't like it, I go to a state that I agree with. Right.
Well, not just that, but if you don't like it, there's a process.
There is.
Right.
Yeah.
And, the other part is people hate on the process. But you got to understand, and I'm not trying to get political.
No.
I'm talking more legal sense.
Yeah.
As a state representative, I need to make it a law that covers 3.5 million people.
Correct.
It's not going to be perfect.
No.
Right? I took that class in law school, and it gave me a new respect for it.
You're a state representative?
No. I took a class in law school. Right? Where we talked about drafting bills.
Oh, okay.
And it's like, you got to go, all right, so the reason bills are so complicated is because there's an exception for everything.
100%.
Right? And if you don't do the exception, like, I'm trying to think of a good one, but I'm like,
if it affects 10% of the 3.5,
I can't even think of a good number.
No, I
but
get
a good
it,
rule.
I get
But
it.
like,
Yeah.
if it affects 10% of right, if it protects 10% of the 3.5 million that are in Connecticut, there's also probably caveats, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's go with liquor stores, right? You open a liquor store Monday through Friday and sell liquor, but on a weekend you can't sell liquor on a Sunday unless you have this exception, right?
Right.
You've gotten this permit, whatever. And I'm just completely spitballing there.
Yeah,
right? But there has to be exceptions because there's always going to be something to the rule, right? Going back to that, right? If you think about it, going back, what's it, like 15 years ago, we couldn't sell liquor on Sundays.
Right. That was longer than 15 years ago.
Whatever, serve on Sundays, right?
I was a kid when that changed.
But you think about it, the church was always serving wine, right? So they had to have a carve out for it,
right?
Because otherwise the church would be in trouble. Mm-hmm. So it's just you have to think about so much. So
you got to go on the more of the populated yeah. So as a real estate attorney practicing Connecticut for 12 years. 12 years?
Yes.
And obviously you only do real estate. And you obviously, thanks to Migrate Agent, you're really busy.
Yes. Don't my agents are not with my good agent. Don't hate on us now. Don't leave us because we are shouting out my good agent. But we're busy because a lot of different.
I'm just joking.
Yeah, I know.
But so you're very busy. You have one other attorney that works for you.
Yes.
You're probably at the point where you need another one. So
within the next 12 months.
What's that look like for you? How does an attorney go and scout out a junior attorney?
Same way.
Just relationships?
Networking.
Do you teach at Quinnipiac?
I do.
So can you recruit from Quinnipiac, or they don't allow that?
So I probably could.
Oh, okay.
But I teach at the undergrad.
Oh.
Right. So, but the thing is, you got to consider, I don't want somebody brand new always, because they don't know enough and it takes too much time.
Here's where I'm going to disagree with you. I think you should go with someone newer, and I'm going to tell you why. Going with someone new, no offense to anybody in this room, because we're all getting old, but the younger generation understands the younger generation.
Right. Wow. That's a good way to look at it.
And you and Jackie being on, I'm not saying you're old, but being on the older side, being on the older generation, getting a younger guy or younger girl in there who can understand the younger, maybe realtors and those personalities will help you grow even further.
I didn't think about that. And the other part of this is with different dynamics, right? So I'm
social media, everything.
I'm in my mid 40s, so I'm a millennial. Well, not in my 40s. Oh, wow, I just aged myself.
Wow.
I'm going to be 40 this year, right? So I'm a millennial,
right?
I'm
a millennial too.
I know how to talk to millennials, right? We have the same lingo.
Yep.
What did my wife say to me the other day, and I was like, "What the hell are you talking about?" She said, "You're Delulu," and I'm like, "What the hell is that?" I'm like, I felt old for a second, right? Because I'm like, I'm not up on the slang, and that's I don't know what even generation it is, in their
TikTok generation,
right, right, but mid-30s, but TikTok AI, they know this stuff naturally, so I didn't think about that, so I appreciate that.
I think so. I think the next move for you is to go for a younger attorney who understands how the younger generation is moving around, because, and I learned this as a broker, the younger generation are less loyal to one thing.
Right.
They're trying more than one thing. They're not going to college, a lot of them, right? They all want to be social media influencers, which is fine, but they're exploring different things, right? And I think personally, do I think they're not as smart as us? No, I don't think that, but I think they're more entrepreneurial spirited.
And I think they're smarter in a different way.
Agreed, and that's where I was going with that.
Right?
Not that you guys are dumb. It's
No. I get
it's
that.
just we were educated without technology,
and we were educated like think about when you were back in high school. Like, the big push for everyone was go to college, go to college, go to college.
Yeah.
Right, and now there's people like Gary Vaynerchuk and
Cody. I don't do it. I
Cody
and I dropped out of high school,
and other people. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
and a bunch of other people that college might not be the right move.
No, and the younger generation aren't going because they're seeing, hey, why am I going debt, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt?
Yeah.
When I can make $100,000 doing real estate, doing
TikTok.
doing whatever it is. And in my personal opinion, like I'm 30, going to be 32. So I'm right in that weird, like,
You're kind of a sandwich generation like us.
I'm a sandwich generation because I'm a millennial, but I kind of am falling in more of the younger side of millennials, more into, was it Gen Z?
Sure.
That's the next one, Gen Z, right? And I kind of understand them, but at the same time, I still kind of relate with the older, like the 40s and the 45s and the 50s. And for an attorney who's growing, in my opinion, I would go for a newer attorney.
Yeah.
I think that's a smart route because one, you're going to get.
So I'm going to do a plug. If there's any young attorneys that are listening to this and want an amazing firm, right?
A busy firm,
and I'm going to plug myself. Here's the problem we have in my part of the industry right now is we're stuck in the early 2000s.
Yep. Well,
right?
In Connecticut, you are.
In Connecticut.
Yeah.
We've got attorneys using AOL. We've got attorneys I had an attorney the other day that used Juno, right? But then I got an email also from him later on that says Juno is phasing him out, so now it's a Yahoo.
Oh.
Right? I'm like,
okay.
It costs $10 a month to get a whatever website you want email address. So elevate yourself, right? It's maybe call it $200 a year.
Right.
To go from an amateur to a professional.
Yeah.
But that's the problem we have right now.
Yeah.
Our legal field, especially in real estate, you've got, and I had this discussion the other day, you've got attorneys, and I'm not bashing on anyone in any way, but you've got attorneys that are operating in, all right, I'll give them the benefit of that, 2010, right? That might even be too current.
Yeah.
Operating on fax, operating on email from Juno and AOL, right? Now you look at my firm, we have a branded email address. Mm-hmm. I have my own private portal.
Yep.
Right? With bank level security.
Yep.
So you're getting a message from me, it's me or my team.
You guys use what, Qualia?
It's called Qualia, yeah.
A lot of title companies in Florida use that.
A lot of and we were the first in our state, actually.
Really?
So when I tell them something, they actually listen. But the point is, security is where things are changing, right? Information is key.
Yes.
You're working with an attorney that has an AOL email address. They don't realize it, but there's security holes left and right.
Highly hacked.
Highly hacked.
Yep.
It's easy to spoof. Like, it's dangerous.
Especially wire, because I remember during COVID, wire fraud was at what the highest it ever was, right?
It's still, right? It
still is,
and now the layer you have on top of this is with AI is they're getting better.
Oh,
right?
yeah, agreed.
So they're English, like, come on, how many times you get an email that your cousin's a Nairobi prince that left you money, right?
Yep.
That and then it's filled with typos in not English like we speak.
Yep.
You knew very quickly. But there's a huge risk. And the other part is, I know there's a lot of younger attorneys, but they still operate on that old mindset because that's how it was taught.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, and now, so like, I'm opening a title company in Florida. I'd open one in Connecticut if I could, but obviously it's an attorney state.
Correct.
But
we're protected by state statute, by the way.
watch yourself. I might fight that and change it.
Yeah.
Listen, title is, and look, we could be transparent. We're very transparent people.
Right.
Attorneys make all their money on title. Let's be real. In real estate.
I'd say it's 50-50 for us.
For you, but I would think the older attorneys that charge very low on their fees, they make most of their money on the title.
Oh yeah.
Right. And that's another thing. Connecticut attorneys aren't charging enough. I know that sounds bad
No, it is 100% true. And
yeah.
I see some of the numbers and I'm like, how do you have a profitable firm?
I don't know.
Because at the end of the day, whatever my mission is great, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, my job is to feed my family.
Absolutely.
Right? If I'm not profitable, I can't do that.
I don't know. Yeah, a lot of times they're one-man shows. They don't even have paralegals. And the thing is like, to be a successful attorney, you need a successful paralegal.
Well, to be a successful anything, you need people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a people business. Everything's people.
It's relationships.
It's
right?
relationships. Again, it goes back to relationships.
Right.
So obviously you're growing. Things are going good. You know, we know your next steps. Let's talk about, we'll end it with talking about kind of the real estate side of it, like the brokerage, NAR, a little bit about that. So obviously you're on the board of realtors.
Yep.
You know how I feel about the board of realtors. I hate NAR more than anything. Okay. Probably not more than anything. There's a person I hate more than NAR.
Yeah.
You know, we all know who that is. I don't have to say it. I'm a crazy motherfucker, huh?
At times.
Yeah, at times. But
I will say, the craziest people build the most successful businesses.
Oh, I agree.
Right? Because here's the thing that if I had to give an agent or anyone the key to success in any business is passion. Right? We look at things, and it's funny because, you know, you look at obsessions or an addiction in a bad way, right? But at the same extent, if you flip it around, you say you're passionate about something, it's okay. It's the same concept, right? You're addicted to growing your business. I'm addicted to growing my business, right? But we cover it in passion, so we'll do shit nobody else will, right?
I agree. And I think, too, I can't speak for you, but I can speak for me. I didn't grow up with money. I grew up poor, okay? And so for me, I just have a problem with, I don't like authority, okay? I don't like authority when it comes from money.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with rich people. I want to be rich. I don't consider myself poor anymore, obviously. Obviously, I have a very successful multi-million-dollar company. Doesn't mean I'm a multi-million-dollar in cash. It means I'm a multi-millionaire in net worth, right?
Right.
And I don't have a problem with rich people. I have a problem with rich people that use it as an authority.
Yeah.
That's my problem.
There's nothing wrong with being rich.
No,
right?
we all want to be rich.
I want everyone in the world to, I talked about my mission. My mission, right? My background, my parents are immigrants. They moved to this country with no money in their pocket, put their kids through college, did they help me with law school? I got to think about that. No, they did their best to help me through law school, right?
Yeah.
Whether it was paying for law school or helping me financially.
They did their best.
Right.
Yeah.
The American dream is where I fight for, right? I feel like I'm a protector of the American dream because I'm a protector of home ownership, right? So, and I don't remember where we're going with this.
It doesn't matter. So we were going with it was.
Oh, you're asking. You're saying
relationships with brokers, right? So you see a lot of personalities out there. I'm probably the best one, personality wise. What are you seeing as far as like agents in the field and the relationships between them, the brokers, and you?
So most of the brokers I don't know. Right. I think
Do you think that's crazy? Do you think there's a problem with that?
I think I know of brokers, right? I think I have a relationship with 3,
Wow.
right?
Isn't that crazy?
And they're all relatively small, right?
Am I the biggest one?
Yeah, I would say 60 agents is not big, but it's not small, but it's, 10-ish.
Yeah.
But the problem is that I've called brokers, right? They don't pick up my calls. We have a problem. We have a problem with your agent not doing something right, right? And it's not me trying to throw an agent under the bus.
No.
Which unfortunately I had to do this week, and I feel bad about it. But we didn't handle it the best way. We will not. That's the one thing you'll learn about us too. If you're throwing money into the deal, I'm throwing money into the deal, right?
Agreed, and we do that a lot. With our
We do
team.
that, but if I'm calling you to say, hey, you need to throw money in the deal, it's because I've already said I'm committing to it.
Right.
Right. I don't blame agents. I don't throw you guys under the bus because we're partners.
Exactly.
Whether you realize it or not, we're partners. We all have the same goal. We want to make our clients feel loved and protected.
So do you feel like out of the majority of the agents you work with, do you feel like most of them are trained properly?
No.
Fair.
Unless they work with us. And the reason I say that is because every month
educate.
I'm bringing them education.
Right.
Because I see that there unfortunately are a lot of realtors. There are not a lot of small mom and pop brokers, and some of the bigger brokers, unfortunately, they don't have the time.
So what you're telling me is my good agents are the best trained you've dealt with. You don't have to answer. I'm only kidding.
I'm not going to answer that. I plead the fifth.
No, we have a few bad ones.
But
I'm just kidding.
I feel like it does seem to me that there is a push now from the real estate community to get educated, right? And if I were to tell you if there was one thing realtors need to know in terms of education that I don't think they're using enough is AI, right?
Fair.
I think AI is game changing. I've been saying it since January of last year when everyone was talking about NAR. I'm like, stop paying attention to NAR. Let them do what they're doing. Go focus on AI and build your business.
I was the only, and you can attest to this, I was the only broker in Connecticut who said, don't worry about it. The NAR lawsuit. I was the only one.
Yeah, I had a lot of brokers bringing me in to speak about it. And my answer was, here's what it is. It doesn't change anything in Connecticut.
No. And I remember when it was kind of like predetermined, like settlement, all my agents were kept code in our group chat, Cody, this NAR lawsuit. I'm like, leave me alone.
Well,
I kept telling them, please stop worrying about it. Because one, it wasn't even settled yet. And two, commercial agents negotiate commissions every day. What the hell is the difference on a residential side?
but here's the thing. Let's be completely transparent with everybody here. There's always going to be something. 2020 was COVID.
Yep.
Okay, so you could have said, you could have looked at this as, oh my God, it's too busy. I can't get an offer accepted. I quit.
Right.
You could have said COVID. I'm scared to go into a house because I'm worried about getting COVID.
Right.
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 You could say a dozen other things. Right. Okay. Fine. So that was 2021. 2022, you could have said, oh, this is the worst market ever. Right. I can't be in business. There's always going to be some problem.
So what is one piece of advice, we'll end it with this, so I always ask all my podcast guests, what is the one piece of advice you can give, whether it's related to real estate, to personal, to whatever it is, what is it?
Build relationships, right? I can't tell you, and here's a big red flag to me, right? You're an agent that I don't know. Your clients picked me as their attorney. Don't you think you should take me out to lunch or ask me to take you out to lunch? Just meet for me. Even if I don't, who pays, who cares, right? That's not the point. The point is, if I'm a new attorney you've never worked with, shouldn't you try to make lunch? And I say lunch because the discussions that happen over lunch are not the same discussions when you call my office and say, hey, I'm Cody and John Doe is my buyer, you're representing them. I'm the guy that's going to kill your deal or make your deal.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you feel like agents don't do that because a lot of agents don't do a lot of business and maybe buying lunch, hear me out on this. Buying lunch can make or break their week sometimes. So
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
If you ask me to go to lunch, I'm going to pay for you.
I get that, but people don't think like that. Whenever I go out, it doesn't matter if you invite me or not, I always am prepared to pay, no matter what.
Right.
So as an attorney, maybe you just flop it on the other side and you say, hey, we've never done a deal together. I'd like to take you out to lunch.
I've tried that.
And you can't get them. Really?
Because I think it's...
Think you're intimidated?
There's an intimidation, but I also think it's not normal. Right? Think about, you worked with dozens of attorneys.
Yeah.
How many of them actually asked you to go to lunch?
Never.
How many
even my go-to attorney?
How many times? Well, no, not never. You've got one. We've gone to lunch a few times.
Just you. No. Oh, just
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
But
Just you.
go to lunch.
Yep.
Right? You need... Okay, so how many of you asked, and then how many have asked you? And the answer probably is very little both ways.
None. Just you.
Right?
Yeah.
Keep that in mind. It's intimidating because as an agent, you're not going to... I'm too busy for you.
Right.
Is probably the answer they got. Or they don't get a response.
I will say people are intimidated by the title attorney, lawyer. You know what? I think they just feel like it's almost like having a cop's badge on your... You know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of like the same...
Yeah.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, I am the opposite. I'm like, man, I could tell this guy anything. And I don't care if we don't have a signed agreement. I know he's not going to go run and tell on me.
Right.
You know?
But it's the more fundamental issue of I'm going to make your closing or I'm going to mess your closing up. You know there's attorneys out there. You know there's attorneys out there that make messes of closings because I've had deals that fell apart for stupid reasons.
100%.
Right?
100%.
But I'd say, and I'm going to plug myself, get to know me.
Always plug yourself.
Right? Go to any agent. I will take any agent out to lunch. So we talked about this before. I'm on the board. Mm-hmm. I also have the unique position. I talk to every new realtor. I teach contract law to the new realtors for NHMR. I tell everyone I'll take you out to lunch. I'll buy you lunch.
Yeah.
Rachel at the board plugs me because I've gone to lunch with her a few times, right? She's like, he actually does it. Mm-hmm. I've had one agent out of at least 100.
Do you put these agents in a CRM?
I do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Wow.
See, I'm not your average attorney.
Yeah.
Right. I actually understand that this is a business, but it's again going back to relationships. Those new agents, I need to keep in touch with. I need to support them, and that's what we do. We support you guys.
You know how you know we're successful people? These phones have been buzzing the whole time, man. Not a second not buzzing.
Yeah, I should check and see, but make sure it's not my wife is the only thing I'm wondering.
You're good. So, all right, guys. So that's Kishore Kapoor with Connecticut Closing.
Connecticut Real Estate Closing Attorneys.
It's
a mouthful.
Yeah.
Done intentionally too.
It's SEO.
SEO. Everything's SEO.
Everything's SEO. So thanks for coming out.
No problem.
We appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.